Welcome, everyone, to episode 26 of the Zion Experience, the TZE. I've got a guest host today, Christian Seymour, and we've got a guest, Kyle Detwiler. Hope I didn't mess your name up, Kyle, and I'm going to introduce Kyle a little bit later. And we just want to welcome you to the show. If this is your first time on the show, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, then we're glad to have you, and thank you for coming back. If you aren't subscribed to it and it is your first time and you want to subscribe to it, you can go in and find us at YouTube. You can find us at Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcast. And we just ask that you subscribe, you give any feedback, any reviews. It just really helps us know what you like listening to, how we can evolve and what we do. But we're super glad to have you here, whether it's your first time or you're returning. So let me go into today's topic and episode is, like I said, number 26, and it's about navigating discovery and growth with our good friend Kyle, who works for Hai Robotics. Kyle's been in this industry, in our industry, the material handling industry, for about 5+ years, and he's currently in a row of, I'm not a big title guy, but your title is Technical Sales Executive at Hai Robotics. So really, Kyle is our partner. Kyle helps us with any sales. Just a great person, great overall. You run into a lot of good people in this industry, and Kyle's definitely top of my list in terms of people I've enjoyed getting to know and working with. Prior to being at Hai, Kyle held roles in solutions design, operations consulting, and engineering. He was actually on the integrator side. So as well as another goods to person type solution. So Kyle can tell us a little bit about that and his history and background. And that other solution was providing that solution, if I can get my words out, was both hardware and software. So Kyle, welcome to the Zion Experience. I know we get to talk outside of this. Kyle, also, if you can't see the video, it's a little dark where he's at because Kyle is sitting in Hawaii right now, and we feel really sorry for him. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning, Hawaii local time, and it's about 9 o'clock Eastern time where we're at today as we're recording this. But Kyle, tell us a little bit more. What did I leave out of your bio, brother? And just maybe elaborate a little bit on your background, what integrator you worked with, and the other goods to person, and just Hai Robotics.
Sure. Well, first off, Jimmy, Christian, thanks for having me. Always good to connect with you guys and chat. It is a little early here, but this industry never sleeps. So I'm happy to get up this morning and start my day with you guys. So looking forward to the conversation. My background, as Jimmy said, is primarily engineering, consulting, design, and now a sales role here. I got my start with NVIDIA Robotics as a solutions engineer, and we were providing both WES offerings and GTP offerings, and sometimes both, depending on what the customer was looking for. Spent about just over a year there, and then moved to the integrator side. Was at Fortna for quite a while. That really opened my eyes to all the different technologies that were out there outside of just what I had seen at NVIDIA. So having access to multiple GTP providers, multiple conveyor providers, software providers, sorter providers, cobots, etc. It was really a playground to put these different pieces together and leverage the best within each vertical that our industry offers. And putting those together was incredibly exciting and a great experience. And that ultimately led me to Hai, where I felt it was a solution that put together the best of a lot of different things with flexibility, speed, and scalability, all at a price point that made sense for just more customers than some of the competitors on the market. And have been at Hai for over 2 years now, have worked with you all for almost 2 years, I believe, and excited for what's to come here.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think just for the audience, so Hai was one of our very first strategic partners. And this is an industry, we've said it a lot of times, but it's built on relationships. And so Zion started and stood up. We're going into year 3, but we're really 2 years mature. Most that are familiar with our story know the story. And so Hai was one of the first ones. You and Brian and Ben and you all were really one of our first partners that we started talking to and signed up with. And have really invested in each other. And I think it's been kind of cool because we've been on parallel paths as we're growing out. Zion was really a reboot. Again, for those that know our story, and I'm gonna go off on a tangent here real quick, Kyle. I had a guy tell me at a convention a couple of weeks ago. He's like, "Where in the world did you all come from?" It's like you all just came out and exploded out of left field, and I told him a little bit of the story, and so it made more sense. And Hai's been around for a while. Most people were not familiar with Hai, as much familiar with Hai going back 2 to 3 years, but the job that you and Brian and the team and just what you all have done in 2 years to bring awareness to the North American market. Hai started in the APAC, Asia market coming out of China, had a lot of success overseas, internationally, and done a really good job of establishing. But I felt like we were on parallel paths, right? And so we were kind of the first. Zion was putting in place what's our processes, what's our partner. You all were putting in, well, what tools do we use? How do we establish a North American market? Not that you weren't established, but there's just it's different international versus North America. So maybe what's that journey been like for you? You came out, NVIA was in a similar spot. They were a newer technology, emerging technology, but you've got 2 swings at the bat now. So how's that been? What lessons maybe have you learned, and how much fun, or if it's not been fun, then just lie to us and tell us it's been fun.
Right. We'll edit that part out. No, I think you're absolutely correct. So I do feel the last 2 years we've really been able to grow and collaborate together. And working with the team that you guys have over there, it's been excellent to get your guys' feedback on here's what we're looking to do, what is required to enable the growth, the goals, the experience that Hai is looking to provide, not only to end users but also to our partners, and being able to have the relationship that we do have, to just not have all the answers all the time, because we were later to the market compared to some of our competitors that have been doing this for 15, 20 years. They had time and less competition to get it right. We're coming in right now in a very competitive, very saturated market, and we don't have 20 years to get it right. So making sure we leverage the experts around us to guide us in the right direction, but also create a partnership that allows us to succeed together. And when Hai wins, we want to win with our partners as well. So I've really enjoyed growing with you guys, and also seeing the Zion team grow as well. And I'm happy for the success that you guys have had, but it's been quite the journey. There's a couple of distinct things that I feel are different between, an NVIA and a Hai Robotics. Most of them are good. There's definitely been some learnings that needed to take place, and I think the biggest one is patience and reflection. Here, we were kind of in a unique position. We were very much a startup environment here in the U.S., but we had the backing and expertise of really a global powerhouse. And so, how do we balance the strategies of what's been successful to grab 74% of the market share globally, and what needs to change to go attack the US, which was more or less the last frontier for Hai. So identifying that as our emerging market, we want that to be the biggest market here in a couple years. There's a different sales model, there's a different sales channel, there's a different way of doing business in each of the other regions that Hai plays in. And here in the US is definitely, an integrator heavy market. And there was tools that needed to be developed, processes that needed to be developed, a different way of developing the team. And there was definitely a little bit of a disconnect, I'd say, between the way the US team wanted to approach the market here versus what was familiar to our global team. And I'd say we're just now starting to close that gap, but that definitely took several months, well over a year, to show and demonstrate the value and really explain the why. And then point to, this is how we're selecting the partners that we want to work with here in the US. We're not trying to work with everybody. We want to align with the ones that are focused on providing a similar experience, have the right customers for us. So I'd say, Jimmy, that's been the one of the biggest hurdles here, and something that I didn't necessarily experience at NVIA, because the U.S. was the only frontier for an NVIA company.
Yeah, so I'll step in. So I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately. So I've been kind of in podcast listening mode here. But Kyle, I think you said it perfectly. I've seen a lot of people, start over in Europe or start over in China, wherever it is over there, and try to bring those same methodologies and same processes and same just ways of thinking over and try to implement that in the U.S. and they fail or they're struggling. So I think you guys at Hai have done a good job at kind of separating that. And you guys here in the U.S. are, you guys kind of have your own little personality for you guys. So I think that's been great.
I appreciate that, and I got to give credit to our global leaders and Richie Chen. For those who have met Richie, he's put a great person in Brian Reinhardt in control of the ship here in the U.S. and really given the U.S. team the autonomy that I feel we need to to be able to go out and be successful in this market and select who we want to work with, how we want to go to market. But it is difficult when you have success, when you have a playbook that you feel works well and you enter a new market. We don't want to start from scratch. We want to start from experience, but we also need to be able to fail quickly on what experience is relevant and what is not. And sometimes we need to be told that from other people. If we try and reinvent the wheel and test every theory ourselves, we're going to run out of time. So partnering with people that can tell us yes or no very quickly to help us hone the approach has been critical.
Yeah, I like the perspective you both have shared, and I think one of the advantages of being a systems integrator, you kind of get this a little bit from Fortna, Kyle, but let me preface it. A systems integrator that's focused on strategic partnerships. I don't think every integrator approaches the market and partnerships in the similar method. I think there's certainly a mindset of let's call it the older, more established integrators and how they've had market success versus what the world's changing to, what it's turning into. So non-conveyor, non-racking, non-platforms, but more of the evolution of software, higher level robotics and technologies, and how you approach a partnership and how integrated you really need to be. Is we've had a front row seat to that. We've been extremely focused on it for the last, I've been in this side of the business for about 8+ years now. And for the last 5, I would say, we saw the change coming. We saw the robotics and technology. We saw the innovation that was happening in the industry. COVID obviously accelerated that and gave us momentarily a blip of where everybody got super excited. But we get to talk to a lot of partners, and then we've got a diverse customer base. And I've had experience working internationally. Christian, you've had some experience working for an internationally held company now, and then you've worked with partners that are international. And it's fascinating to me. Everybody wants the North American market, and the North American market, it represents 60+% of the industry and the growth and where everything's at. But the North American market is totally different than the European market. It's totally different than the Asian market. And you could even go inside of those markets and say, France is different than how the Netherlands does business, and hadn't even brought the Middle East into it. And so there's all these partners and players that are coming, trying to establish themselves in the North American market. And I think you hit on a couple things for me. If I broke it down to probably two different things. One, you said, is just patience, is the time it takes to establish a new technology. COVID allowed that to accelerate a little bit, but everybody's kind of pulled back on that now, in my opinion. And it takes a long time. We're still working towards our first deal together. We're really close on, 2 or 3, but it's right. The buying behaviors in North America, the willingness to be an early adopter on a newer technology, and how big the projects are and integrated they are compared to more of the Chinese market, right? There's just a different project size. I remember our first meeting with Richie, who, by the way, I love Richie. Richie's always been good to us when we talk. He's approachable. you all have got a dynamic leadership team, and I appreciate that, because I think a good partnership, you have to have those relationships. You got to like working with each other. One, you can have the best product. If you don't like working with each other, it's tough to get through. It's transactional and it's not a partnership. But the time it takes to get a product to market, we've brought new technologies in from overseas. We've done it 2, 3, 4, 5 times with success. Some of those have gone on. It's propelled a couple of those companies to good things. Some of them haven't established as much market share, but we've had a playbook that we've used, and it just takes time. And I don't have patience. Most of the industry doesn't have patience. You're only as good as the last time, the last project, the last sale, and that's the industry we have. But patience has to be critical. And I want to ask, and I'm going to follow up after I quit yapping here in a minute. I want you to tell the listeners like what you all have been able to accomplish in the last 2+ years, because I think it's phenomenal. And then the second thing is just the culture. I think of how you go about doing business. And it's not only how you close a deal and sell a deal and how you market a deal, but it's how you execute to it, what level of support you have afterwards, the life cycle of the deal. And just it's stuff like how you go to legal terms and conditions. They're different worlds, and it sounds easy, but it takes a lot of work. But once you get that first one or second one and you get momentum and you put the foundation in place, man, your market opens up, and you got to do it. You gotta have success. And it's like you said, I'm gonna stop after this, Kyle. It's like everybody is chasing this goods to person. Everybody sees the picking as the biggest opportunity. And 10 years ago, how many were in the market? There arguably were a very few. There were shuttles, but really it was auto store.
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at how many goods to person players are in the market and coming into the market and trying to do a variation, especially at highs. Like you look around, everybody's tried that technology. I think you all are very focused and specialized and do it extremely well, which is why we're partnered with you. But I bet there's 25 companies that offer ACR technology. They don't go as high as you all, but it's crazy. So maybe a little story of like how much success have you all had in the last 2 years? How have you all gotten that flywheel spinning? And
Sure. Yeah. And real quick, you touched on 2 things, Jimmy, that I think go hand in hand around the patience aspect. And that's the time it takes to bring a new product to market and just how competitive and saturated the market is. So while Hai is a robotics company, we do like to think of ourselves as an innovation company as well. But it's a fine line between, establishing a technology that our partners are comfortable with and iterating too quickly upon that technology. It takes about 6 to 8 months for the US team to get comfortable with the new solution offering, truly understand how to design, implement it, and then we have to roll that out to our partners, right? That could be another 3 to 6 months. So we're potentially a year behind any innovation, and always in this learning cycle. And when we're continuing to introduce something that we feel is better, uh, it's not always the best thing at that time, right? It's not always the best thing for that solution or that customer on where they're at in their journey. So uh, how do you balance, and this is something we're still trying to figure out, how do we balance a very robust partner network with the innovation and the rate that we want to innovate at, to make sure we stay 2 steps ahead of our competition. We're still trying to find that balance. But going back to the success story that Hai has had the last 2 years, it's been really an incredible journey. So when I joined, and really when the US team was established back in early 2022, we had 10, 12 employees, a couple engineers, 2 sales reps, no help on implementation, service, support. We didn't have anybody in charge of our partner network, and we were given some keys and asked to go build something. And we didn't have many show sites, if any at all. We didn't know what partners we really wanted to work with. A couple partners at that time didn't even exist that we've now, partnered up. You guys being one of them. We were completely unaware, and here we are now. And we only had a handful of robots in the field. And in that 2 years, we've grown the US team to be over 70 employees now. We've established an incredibly robust partner network. We've built out all entities of the US company that are needed to support not only partners, but customers after that initial sale happens. We have sites in the US that demonstrate nearly all of our capabilities, which has been critical to showing customers what we are designing and hoping to implement with them. We have over 1,000 robots in the field, with one of the biggest global sites for Hai coming to Indiana this year with nearly 400 robots and over 300,000 totes. So we're very excited for that. And we're really, we're showing the company in the market what we felt we knew we could do here in the US with the team that we have and the partners that we have. So it's been quite the journey. Not all days are good days, but it is nice and important to reflect every once in a while on what has been accomplished and who we've accomplished that with.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations on that. I don't think a lot of people know that, but I mean, what I can look back and say, it's like this isn't an easy industry. It's a tough industry. None of the jobs are super easy and just go flawless and just life's easy and you're on autopilot or cruise. I tell everybody, all our customers, I say, I can make you one promise. Something's going to go wrong. That's the only promise I can make you and tell you that's going to happen. But we'll work through it. We'll get through it. But that success is great. You all had been in the market even previously before we started Zion. And I think there's some companies that did a better job marketing maybe and getting the product out right in that same time that you all were hitting the market. And I think what Brian and you and the extended team and just all of, I can name them all, right? But y'all have had a lot of success. You should feel good about that. And I mean, globally, you're what, 10,000 plus robots now out in the field?
Yep, and that's right.
I mean, that's amazing. I'm a little fascinated with the Chinese market. It's a newer culture for me and how they work and how they do business. And it's just different. It's different than how the American market goes to business. And I was on the phone with somebody, a couple weeks ago, and your all's company's name came up, and we were talking about several of the Chinese companies. And I think one of the compliments that came out of that conversation is that Hai is an inventor. I think there's a lot of companies, maybe, I'm not a real negative person in life, but there's some companies that maybe aren't as innovative and as an inventor. They might see technology, they might replicate technology, they might market technology well, but they're not an inventor. And from what I see in Hai's DNA is that you all, Richie, and that team is like, you all are inventors. You're coming up with new ways and new methods. Just in 2 years, you all transitioned out of, you've got a product, but you're very focused on how do you evolve that product. And so you came out with the system 1, 2, and 3, and you're constantly evolving. How do you solve the problem, which is what your competition's doing. Right. Everybody, I mean, the fundamentals are the same. You get product in a storage bin and you get product to a person. How do you do it? What's the way that you can maximize that density? How can you get the most throughput? How can it be as flexible as possible? How can you have a variety of SKUs in place? But I love how you all are constantly evolving and inventing and going through that cycle. And just, I thought that was a good compliment. The industry knows Hai is an inventor and innovative. And I think that's a nice compliment.
I think you said a key word there too, is what I like to say about Hai is focus. Because you've got a lot of these robotics companies out there that are, they're not as focused as you guys. You guys, you do have your system 1, system 2, and system 3, but they're all based on kind of the same technology, right? Mm-hmm. They've got the same components within them, maybe a few different things of each, but it's still the focus of that goods to person. The focus, I mean, that is your focus, and I think that's what kind of makes you guys kind of step above the rest, is just that focus. And like Jimmy said, like if you've got that focus, it's really easy to look at that and then innovate upon what you have. So I think that's been really good for you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate it. And it's something that we definitely hang our hat on a day-to-day basis, on truly understanding what our identity is and what our value is, and being comfortable that not every project's going to be in our strike zone, and that's okay. But we want to be the best tool for that particular job. And when the right job comes up, we feel it should be a no-brainer through our process, our team, our deliverables, our solution, that Hai is the best fit there. And so far, we've seen that approach and that thought process has been validated really in the last 18 months, and something we're looking to build upon in the future. But we definitely take great pride in being a master of one, not a jack of all trades, and working with people that view view other companies like us, put together the best of each vertical. And that truly, I think, capitalizes on why work with an integrator. Why pick somebody to sit there and help you navigate the drastically complex world now that is robotics and automation. There's a lot of confusion out there. There's a lot of decoys. So how do you pick the right one? Well, reach out to somebody that's already vetted all these technologies and they have a portfolio that's ready to go and solve any problems. So we've enjoyed that.
Christian, we were and Kyle, we were at the Robotics Summit last week, and there was a panel there with GXO was on it, Corber was on it, and DHL was on it, which are two all three arguably right in the middle of robotics and innovation and just making, they're early adopters. One's more of a seller of it and a software handler of it in Corber, but the conversation around was, I think there was a real realistic approach. And I think that's where the market is today, is like what you market and say you can do versus what's the real world application of what you do. There's an understanding that you have to put it in place. You have to demonstrate, and that it's an evolving nature of technology and innovation. And I think you all have done that really well. It's like you all don't overpromise. You all have a product. You're getting your install base up to where you can go see what's working, and you're working through and evolving how you refine the product and how you constantly are getting better versus you just put it in, you're transactionally wanting to sell it and get away from it, because what their theme is it has to work. It has to make sense. It may not have to be the perfect home run on the ROI right now. And I think operations, these all, both DHL and GXO are looking at it from an operational mindset, which is where I grew up. I always say I was a concrete walker. So it's great whatever you put on a piece of paper. It's great in the sales process. It's great on what you say is going to happen. But then there's the real world of you've got to work. And the humans have to be able to work with it. And the operators have to be able to manage it. And it has to meet requirements. And I think it's tougher to operate. I think it's tougher to get it in. And most operators are understanding that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to just, you push a button and, it automatically works and there's never a problem. But Christian, if you remember the panel, it's like, I thought it was a pretty interesting perspective of, we know it's an evolution. They're willing to take some bets. There's so much in the market that everybody says they can do the same thing. How do you select the right projects to take a risk on, to take a bet on? And I think you all come through that cycle in the last 2 years. And now it's like, you've got it refined. Let me go show you what works and how it works, and are finding a more clear market of how it works. So
yeah, I think that's one of the advantages of us being a little bit smaller and agile here in the US, and the freedom that we have is we can be flexible with some of these larger providers to de-risk and accommodate some of the concern and really put our money where our mouth is. And we talked about kind of the success Hai has had in 2 years. The piece that I always felt was missing for many months was that show me aspect. Okay, great. Everything looks, the solution looks great. The numbers look great on paper. Hey, show me that 400 bot site. Right. Well, how about I tell you a story? How about I show you a YouTube video instead? Now we can bring somebody through a site and have them really, be a part of what that solution looks like at scale. And but for us, especially when we look at 3PLs, it is difficult to weed through a lot of the distractions that do exist. And with our technology, we're happy to scale that down and start with a couple robots, start with 1 or 2 bays of racks, start with 200 totes, and go through the full implementation at a price point that is almost nothing. We're even happy to roll those costs in to larger implementations, but we want to provide that opportunity for every stakeholder involved to get comfortable with our technology And if it's not the right fit, that's fine. We'll find a different site or a different customer to put that in at. But having the appetite and the understanding that these are the hangups with certain customers, primarily 3PLs, is all right. Let's do a trial and let's just see what that looks like, and how can we structure the agreement to incentivize that type of behavior.
Absolutely. Christian, I'm going to get back on target here a little bit because I told you we did this, Kyle. I told you we fly off.
No,
it's all good.
It's good conversation. Yeah.
Let's talk a little. We got about 10 minutes to get into a little bit more. So let's take the next 5 to 8 minutes and just say, Christian, Christian's role with Zion as director of solutions. Christian is seeing a lot of, I think I know what I want, or I have a good idea of what I want, or I have no idea what I want. And you're going in, Christian, almost on the blank piece of paper, and you're working with Jordan and the sales team, and just you are coming up with solutions, the creativity around it. And customer has a problem, or we go in and help identify a problem, and then we create a solution. So just specific really to Hai's, like when you all approach, and you all can tag team this, but when you're approaching a customer and you're bringing them a potential warehouse automation solution, like what are some of the things that you're looking for, and where does Hai come into the mix, Christian? So maybe give your perspective, and then Kyle, you've got a different perspective, or probably a similar perspective of where you're looking at. It's like, hey, we do these things well. We don't do these well, or these are more challenging for us. So
so I'll start with that, and that kind of goes into like the discovery process, right? Is before we even bring a partner like Hai even to the table, is what what am I trying to get from the person that I'm talking to? And for me, it's newer to me. So I've been in solutions kind of the whole time I've been in this industry, a little bit of project engineering, but mostly solutions. And, more recently, I've been brought into kind of the sales, business development part of this, this kind of process. And for me, it's always the first thing I got to do is recognize that, I'm in this discovery call. So I'm not trying to sell someone some type of technology. I'm trying to figure out what do they really want. So it's really, at this time, it's really all about them. It's not about what I can sell them, what solution I can give them. It's, what are their problems? Who are they? So are they a huge retailer, or are they a small 3PL? Because that really is going to give me, do they have the capital? Do they have the, what type of ROI are they trying to get? Is it all about money? Is it, and that's a good point too, is I think it's important to talk about price points, even at the very beginning, because you could be with a smaller 3PL that it's, you've got to have a 2-year ROI because they're going on a 3-year contract or something. So I think that's important. But it's really, what are their problems? Is number one. What are we trying to solve? And then from there, it starts the solution process, right? So I start to ask about volumes and order profiles, and what's their product, even that, and all of those things, in that, once you get to that solutions process, will drive you to that solution. So that's what I always say is first understand, make it about the customer. It's not what I can sell them, it's what are their problems. And once you figure out those problems and maybe get some data, or maybe there's not data, but just based on experience and just being in this industry a while, knowing their product mix and whatever else, that'll drive them to a solution. And that's what I like to say is the data and their problems drive us to a solution, rather than, hey, customer, I've got this, this great partner, this great technology in Hai Robotics. Let's see how it will work for you. So that's how I kind of go about it.
I think that's great. We definitely see it through very, very similar eyes, and the last 5 years, I feel one thing that I've definitely taken away is this is a relationship business. People are going to buy from somebody they trust, and usually someone they like as well. And I felt like there's no better way to build trust in this relationship by demonstrating the curiosity and desire to understand the customer's problem. And what I've seen is usually whoever understands the problem the best is going to win the project. It may not always lend itself to the best solution, even though in my opinion, it usually does, but it lends itself to the best relationship. And the customer will hear from the questions that you ask that nobody else has asked, the information that you require that nobody else requires, and educating the customer along the way on why those questions and that data is so critical to driving the right solution. That's where I feel so much growth occurs between the end user and the solution provider. But that it all starts with that discovery, those initial calls, the initial site visits, and really a servant's mentality, walking in there, not trying to push a solution on them, like Christian mentioned. And I think that's big for Hai and the people that we work with. Is we want to work with problem solvers. Some people have a lot of different technologies in their back pocket. Some only have a couple, and that's all right. We want to work with smart, kind people that just their heart races when there's a new problem, a new challenge to go solve, and it's very evident to the customer that they're in the same boat day one. And this is not going to be transactional. This can be longer than the 10-week RFP. There's a desire from our side and our partners to get it right. And I think there's fundamental things that can be done in the first couple of weeks of a project to really demonstrate who you are as a team and who you are as a person, to make sure, as Christian said, that the problem is understood and you're selling the right solution, automated or non-automated, depending on what those requirements are.
Yeah, and I think you said it too. Is as the companies that we're in today is of course we have our everyone has their sales targets, right? But we have that ability, since we're kind of smaller companies, to focus more on the relationship, right? If we're working with someone that it's just we don't want to wake up in the morning and have to talk to them. We work at a place where we can say, this isn't going to work for us. It's not a great fit, and we can kind of back out. So I think that just being able to do that as well just helps us grow and helps us build that trust and build the relationships that we need. So,
yep, agreed.
I think y'all are saying some key things. It's like that. It's the fundamental reason or philosophy and culture that we're trying to build and have built in some regards at Zion, which is really it's a partnership. We're not transactional. We're only as good as the people that work with us and for us, and only as good as the partners that we work with and work for. And you're only as good as the customers that you help. So when we started this a couple of years ago, that was my mantra, is like good people, good partners, and help and work with good customers. And we firmly believe if you do those things and you do it right, you'll see success, and the financials will take care of themselves, and you'll have the growth and sustainability and everything that you want. And you got to be able to listen. You got to be able to problem solve. You got to be able to say, act in the best interest of the customer and have a relationship, desire it, don't desire it for a transaction and for a paycheck. Desire it because you want to do what's right for them, because those employees that are on the floor that you're building this system for deserve for that system to be as good as possible, to where they have a good, productive day and they can go home to their families and feel good about it. And the customer's product gets out to their customer, and they have the ability to grow their market and service people. And I think you've probably been around long enough now, Kyle and Christian both, like you've run into the people that are only interested in the sale and the chase and the hunt and the kill, and let me put it up on my wall. And I think either way you can approach the market. There's no doubt about it. we personally, Zion personally, and the partners that we work with want to approach the market to be a trusted advisor, solve problems, focus on relationship. And we feel like we'll have success and have had success doing so. So it's pretty cool. Last question. What is the biggest future development you see coming in the industry that you think will affect customers in the next 3 to 5 years? So if you look through that lens of 5 years from now, what are we going to be on a podcast talking about? The same stuff?
I can start, or Kyle, you can start. I've got the same thing. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I say this, I think everyone says it, but it's AI, right? I mean, 5 years. So today and in the next few years, what data, what information are we going to be feeding the system? And then in 5 years, what is that going to be able to do for us? So am I going to be sitting here and like, Jimmy, you and Jordan showed me something on GTP, a few weeks ago, where you can say, "Hey, design me."
He was
Yeah.
just like, you can't
design me a warehouse in Chicago with humanoids, doing stuff, and it created a picture of a warehouse with humanoids working in the warehouse. So, and really, it's data driven, right? So, what data are we going to be feeding that? And am I going to be able to say, hey, here are my, in the solutions, I'm like, here's my volumes, here's my order profiles, here's the problem I'm trying to solve, here's the size of my building I have, or maybe not even the size of the building I have to work with. Am I going to be able to feed that to them and say, hey, design me the perfect warehouse with the perfect technology that's going to be able to do that? So is that going to be possible? I don't know, but that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Christian. And for me, I think I'd think about it one slightly different. Of AI will certainly be a part of these solutions and certain solutions, and I'm definitely curious about what an AI will enable, and how do we have AI be as non-biased as possible in the designs. And there's always, I feel AI will capture a happy path, and what will that happy path be, and how do we make sure all the bases are covered if people are taking a bit more of a back seat of that initial design. How do we ensure that the problem is actually solved? Because usually the solution can be quite obvious after a couple weeks, but it's the edge cases that you want to make sure you capture and solve for. Those are the headaches. And will AI be able to capture the nuances and the edge cases over time potentially? But how will that look? But I do feel AI will definitely enable a different level of collaboration between robots and people. Right now, I feel they simply work around each other, and there's still fencing in between one another, and people market it different ways, but they're clearly not ready to truly collaborate just yet. And whether it's through software advancements or hardware advancements, I think we will see a different level of collaboration be defined between hardware, software, and people. And what that looks like, I'm not terribly sure, but I don't think we're anywhere close to getting rid of people within the warehouse. The humanoid explosion is exciting, and certainly something to keep an eye on. But commercializing that and making that ready for the harsh environment that a warehouse is going to be difficult, but it, you know it's 100% achievable, and that will set a new definition for what the other solutions will have to build around. We're no longer designing solutions for people potentially, right? We're designing solutions for other forms of robotics and software. And I think that'll kind of redefine how solutions are viewed, and set maybe a more standardized approach for what stations need to look like, how presentations need to be done, how product needs to be oriented. And I'm almost fearful of a cascading effect all the way to the inbound part of the operation, where that sets the tone for everything that happens after that. And if you can get it right, excellent. But there's going to be a lot more machines, I think, working together, but people will always be at the heart of it. and making sure that collaboration is second to none will be critical, in my opinion.
I think that's a pretty powerful statement, Kyle, what you just said. And Jake, if you're listening in the background, this would be a great clip for us to have in. But I think in the future, solutions are not only going to be designed for people. I think if you don't find a way to design the solutions for the machines, whatever the machines are, whatever the robotics and technology is, and then if you don't infuse it with, if you're not staying up to date with whatever the software evolves to, which is just really the AI, right? If you don't stay on those, I think that's our future, is how do you design solutions that are designed not only to collaborate with humans, but also the robots and the machines. I think that's pretty powerful. And I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be awesome. I think there's going to be a lot of challenges, but man, I think we have to do it ethically. I think we have to keep our mind on and make sure that we just don't do it just for the dollar. And, you only do it at the detriment of humans, because humans at our best are when we're thinking and we're cognitive and in where we can make decisions. We're always going to be, shouldn't say always, hopefully we're always in that place, right? To where the humans are always required and needed. And that's the future I envision. That's the future I want to help make solutions for. So Kyle, loved having you on. We're going to have one fun question. We're going to wrap it up because Jake's going to cut me off if I don't. He told me I'm a minute over already in the chat. But last question, we have a little fun with one last question. So who is the best mentor you've ever had? If you've had a good mentor.
Yeah,
maybe you
I
can
think I've had.
You don't have to call the person out unless you want to, but just have you had a good mentor in your life, and what's that meant to you?
Yeah, no, great question. I feel I've been blessed with more than one mentors in my life so far, and each one has kind of found a spot in different aspects of my life. So, I think three big things for me is, one is family, the other one is sports. I'm just, I just love all aspects of competition, and I also love my work as well, and I love the people I work with. And I think for my family, my dad's been a major mentor of mine. He's far from perfect, but he's definitely an individual that I feel I watch closely in life and try and emulate, and not necessarily replicate, but if replication is what happens, that's fantastic. He retired at 35 and spends his time doing many other things, and trying to really understand and take his guidance to heart on what does success look like, and what are the things that really enabled his when building a family and the priorities that each person needs to have. So I feel that's a big one. In sports and athletics, growing up, I really admired a man named, and still do, Devin Ginty. I believe he's 12 or 13 years older than me, but had such a desire to give back to the community that we were in. And he grew up, we went to the same high school. He ended up playing basketball at University of San Diego, had a breakout year in March Madness, which sent the small town into a massive frenzy, went and played professional ball overseas, and then came back to coach at the local high school. And I had the opportunity to coach with him last year, and it was fantastic. But just to work with somebody that probably doesn't understand how much of an impact that they had on your life, and watch them go through their various stages, and again, just pull the nuggets, have the opportunity to spend that much quality time with them is fantastic. And then lastly, and I'll wrap it up here, in the workplace, somebody that you both know very well, I'd say Ben Grutner is somebody that I met at Envia, and truly, I felt he took me under his wing early on. This was an industry that I knew nothing about coming out of college, had no insight to the people, the way of doing business, and there's so much to learn, but it's also such a simple business as well. And to see and work with somebody like Ben, who's had excellent success, who's so well respected in the market. It's been fantastic to have the opportunity to work with him at two places, in Via and here at Hai Robotics, even though he's no longer with us. He's definitely made my 5 years better and helped me be successful. So I'd say those are my three, Jimmy, even though you only asked for one.
That's awesome, man. That's good. We were chatting up with Ben yesterday, and we saw him last week. So he's
great.
on the good things, and just I agree, just good people. This industry is about good people and relationships, and that's why we're on this call together, and we've really enjoyed it. And Christian, thanks for co-hosting with me.
I was a listener mostly.
That's all right, y'all. I think you all did a fabulous job. So we're going to wrap it up now. And if you're out there, if you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe. You can leave us comments. Thank you for being part of the Zion Experience episode 26.